If you ask a nutritionist what is the biggest evil in our diet, then most of them will answer it's sugar. Yes, indeed, sugar is a thing that is even more dangerous than the notorious cholesterol. And many of us know how difficult it is to quit sugar, what dependence it causes, and how difficult it is to give it up once and for all, but of course there is a way out. In this video, I have collected the main ways and techniques of how to stop eating sweets. So watch the video to the end, it will be very interesting and useful. So let's go. By the way, friends, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell too, do not miss my new products. So, in the beginning, let's figure out for a general understanding, why we want to eat sweets. Firstly, we are often drawn to something sweet because of an unbalanced diet. The diet lacks complex carbohydrates, either fats or proteins, which are broken down and absorbed much longer than simple sugars. And therefore we begin to feel a hunger attack quickly. Accordingly, of course, it is necessary to add complex carbohydrates, fiber, proteins, and fats within reasonable limits. Another reason why you are drawn to sweets is work that is associated with active mental activity. Yes, our brain feeds on glucose. And our brain, generally speaking, is probably the most voracious organ. Despite the fact that it weighs 2% of our mass, it eats up 20% of our oxygen. Another reason why we may start to be drawn to sweets is constant stress. And often we don't even realize that we live in a stressful environment. Well, for example, we have been in stressful circumstances since childhood. Shouting and clarifying relationships was the norm in the house, and then we entered adulthood, where again shouting and clarifying relationships, constant some kind of scrapes, are also the norm of life. We look at it as the norm. But objectively speaking, it is a stressful situation, which is detrimental to our body. And since we are in a state of stress, the body tends to compensate for this somehow, and get pleasure where we did not receive it. That is why people often eat stress, exactly as they say. Because when we consume something sweet, sweets, and even more so chocolates, we get our dose of dopamine, the very neurotransmitter of pleasure, which somehow relieves accumulated stress locally, temporarily. Therefore, in a good way, of course, you need to remove the source of stress, and not just deal with its consequences, yes, with a craving for sweets. Well, now let's go directly to the ways to give up sweets. Practical recommendations. So first of all, it is necessary to give preference to complex carbohydrates, not simple ones. Complex carbohydrates are those carbohydrates that are digested much longer, which have a lower glycemic index, and which will provide a feeling of satiety for a longer time. That is, not so much to eat something sweet and want to eat again after 2 hours, no, but to eat something with a low chemical index. Some whole grain porridge that will restrain our hunger for the next 4 hours, not 2. Secondly, it is necessary to add, oddly enough, fats to our diet. In general, we need to remove sugar and replace the same calorie content with fats, and this will be a very good castling. Fats perfectly help to stop the feeling of hunger. If we consume, of course, an adequate amount of fat, then we will not have this constant itching inside to eat something to satisfy this very hunger. Generally speaking, what causes this constant hunger? It occurs due to the fact that we, abusing sweets, raise our insulin in the blood, and this hormone provides increased appetite. It directly affects our appetite. Therefore, it is not surprising that there is such a simple pattern. We eat a lot of sweets, we constantly want to eat something else. More sweets means more appetite. We start eating it again with sweets, because we are already used to it. And we fall into this most enchanted circle. Therefore, it is necessary to understand that the love of sweets is really an enchanted circle that strengthens itself, and which simply needs to be broken. Let's move on. If we eat something sweet, well, let's say sometimes we have some indulgences, it's not forbidden in principle, a little bit. That is, it must be done slowly and gradually. Chewing for a long time, and not hurrying anywhere, very slowly, measured and thoroughly. Because if we eat it on the fly, on the go, and even quickly, then we can eat it in half an hour and eat it. But if we eat in small portions, we will eat 2 or 3 times less. And in the end, we will be the winner. Remember this simple rule: sweets should be eaten slowly. Let's move on. The following psychological technique is very important, and it is even often recommended even by neurophysiologists. So, in order not to be tempted, do not stumble upon it. But if you can't refuse and resist sweet cupcakes, sweets and buns and other chocolates, then just never keep them in your house. Just don't buy it. And if you live with someone together, ask them to either not buy it either, or hide it somewhere in their nightstand, so that you don't even know where it lies, so that even thoughts and temptation don't have to look for it. If you go to the supermarket, then just walk past with your eyes closed, past all these departments, and don't even look there. Ultimately, those people who have studied the work of our brain, and, in particular, the limbic system of the internal parts of our brain, are the very system that is responsible for this search for delicious food and arousal for it. These experts say that we do not know how much the limbic system is excited in this or that person. Maybe a sweet tooth gets excited so much that he really is not able to overcome this withdrawal. And you would have such an aspiration, you probably wouldn't have overcome it either. In other words, not everything here rests only on willpower. There are also certain basic settings of our brain that we cannot overcome. This is a given. And some people really have such a drawback or something. The fact that they have an increased need and excitability of the limbic system for sweets. So, the most effective thing for these people is not even to be tempted, so that all these sweets do not catch their eyes. That's how it should be. Let's move on. Never reward yourself with sweets. That is, for example, we train so hard, so we put a lot of effort into it, and we want to reward ourselves psychologically. But now I'm going to eat a chocolate bar. Either we worked very well, we did some important report there all night, or we were preparing for the session. But now I'm going to reward myself, I'm going to eat a sweet. On the one hand, rewarding ourselves for hard work is certainly right, it tames us to hard work, and it encourages it. That's great. But there is one but. With this approach, we begin to evaluate sweets as a reward, and this is a bad mood. We should not perceive sweetness as a profitable trophy. If we want to minimize sweets, then we must change our attitudes towards them, we must cool down to them. Not perceive them as some kind of reward that needs to be achieved, and which is cool, cherished and so desirable. No. They should turn into something neutral for us, or even negative, with a minus sign. And this is not a reward that you need to honor yourself with. Of course, I understand that rewarding yourself for hard work is also important, but think of another way. Not sweets, but something else more useful. Some delicious healthy food, or a trip to some entertainment institution, or some exciting activity that you like. Anything, but don't reward yourself with sweets. And by the way, there is also such an educational moment. Child psychologists often recommend not to reward children with sweets too. Here I got a 5-nate candy. Because if you do this a lot, then with age, when the child becomes an adult, he will also perceive sweetness as some kind of profitable and very cool achievement to strive for, and his brain will already unconsciously perceive it as a thing that needs as much as possible. And when he has the opportunity to buy his own sweets, here he can already buy them in unlimited quantities and start buying them. In other words, this is such an important psychological moment. The next technique, which is also very effective, is physical activity. It has long been proven and well known that any physical activity dulls our appetite. The effect lasts up to 2 hours. That is, if we want to eat something sweet, go for a walk somewhere in the park. Or do a series of squats, a series of push-ups. Up to 2 hours, you can get the effect of dulling your appetite. The next technique is to eat something sweet just in case. Drink a glass of water. Our stomach is so arranged that its receptors do not distinguish very well something inside, according to the degree of nutrition. Here he is full, and it seems to him that it means I am full. Therefore, it can really be filled with water, and it's great to dull the feeling of hunger. However, remember that the saturation signal from the stomach can go up to 20 minutes to our brain. The fact that it will not be instantaneous, but over time it will still be. By the way, friends, and write in the comments, and do you eat a lot of sweets? Or have already given up on it? Tell us, it will be interesting. And now, I highly recommend you to watch my other video, where I talk about what will happen to your body if you don't eat sugar. And the changes, I must say, will be amazing. And this video will complement very well what I have been talking about here, and you will have an even more powerful motivation to give up sugar. The link to the video you have just appeared on the screen, as well as the link I left in the description and pinned it in the top comment. Be sure to watch this video. And if you like this video, then like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on that very video. About what will happen if you give up sugar. See you later.